Hello, so what I've got is a copy of Staff of Laurel, Staff of Ash by Dianna Rhyan. It's published by Moon Books. Now, I had this initially to review as an ebook and I was struck by how incredibly beautiful the writing is. There's a lot here that's really interesting. It's a book about sacred landscapes in ancient nature myth. So there's a lot of drawing on very old texts, but also a lot of putting that into a context where it makes sense for a modern reader. It's an incredibly interesting piece of work. It's very beautiful, it's very thoughtful. I found it incredibly inspiring. So I said I'd really like to do some readings from this, and thus a beautiful hard copy made its way to me so that I could do this, because I wanted to share something of what the language is like in this book, so that people would appreciate just how lovely it is and why they therefore ought to get a copy. And I'm hard recommending this. I think it's a standout, lovely piece of writing, and it has a great deal to offer anybody on the Druid path, anyone broadly interested in paganism, in ancient paganism, in modern relationships with landscape even. It's got a great deal to offer. Right, so here's our first excerpt, which I'm taking from page 15. Recovery from appetite for paradise-grown fruit requires turning away from gatekeepers who take and take in attempts to imprison nature's vitality, to find our way back to wild domains where the strongest bolts spring open, away from empty-eyed images of perfection. In the muddy crevices of the natural world, something flickers just outside the field of vision, something we can almost hear. Expressed in flawed and frightening myths, enchantment still lives and wanders out there in every forest remaining on the earth. Honestly, I could have picked pretty much any page at random and found some beautiful lines, but I went through partly looking for sections where I was sure I could pronounce everything, because some of the ancient text stuff I'm frankly less confident about. So here's another. We're on page 77 now in the chapter about nymphs. When water was caught, a liquid rather than a nymph remained. But here is a delight. Gathering of water was women's work. The girl with a vessel of water on her head appears frequently in art from excavated sacred sites. Archaic poets likened jars to wombs. The first woman arrives in Greek myth, carrying one filled with sorrow and hope. Lympha tends the woman walking with a vessel to the spring, then home to house or home to sanctuary, in a veiled dance of slow time. Fluid, in clay jars, once delivered home, quenched thirst, though it was a step removed from the fortunate woman's hand that had dipped into the cool upswell. The daily visit to the scenic native spring was a duty, a pleasure, and a lingering moment for reflection and ritual contact with the ever-flowing feminine divine. In a living fountain leaning over the water, she could see a rippling, unformed face she could not see anywhere else, which was rather charming. Okay. And what was I after? Yes. So there's we're on page 92 now. Yet the truth of wilderness in the region sacred to Artemis is that all along the margins, in every cranny and crevice, spring up weeds, unclassified and unmapped, slanting between erected portal and trackless land. These weeds are like unverifiable stories. Crones and holy hags might cackle together at the common definition of a weed anyway, a plant not desired, a plant of no use or beauty. Especially since the word hag originally meant holy. Human-drawn borders shift on the face of the earth because they are imaginary, like masks worn by the chorus of a Greek tragedy removed at the end of the play. Outside city limits, where maps hesitate in lingering doubt, exists the living hyacinth. Somewhere out there, Artemis ranges whole and vibrant. Also, out there somewhere strides Nemesis, her scales of justice in one hand and her unsheathed sword in the other, the implacable goddess who redresses wrongs against the natural order. So, as I said, I think it's a stunningly beautiful book. There isn't a bad line in it, and it is poetry and invocation. It is the magic and enchantment of landscape. It's absolutely worth your time. I heartily recommend checking it out, and thank you for listening.